Oh, okay.
You ready, Annie? Here we go. So this session today is our first of 4 sessions. We'll remind you of the other dates when we finish. It's for voter assistance and really for people who are brand new to getting out the vote and for seasoned veterans. We hope all of you are going to find this of assistance. And more often than not, we find that other people's questions are really helpful. In especially for those who may have more intricate questions or very basic questions. We're not going to take questions as we go, but what I would ask you to do is if you have a question, either type it in the chat or just do star hand up. And then Annie, who's going to take over from me through halfway through the presentation, and I will keep an eye on the questions and we'll make sure that they are all recorded and that they are all answered. We really want to make sure that we're timely on this because I know people have busy lives. And so if we get to the end of the presentation in time and we get all the questions in 1 hour, fantastic. But we know that people have got other things to do, so we want to be attentive to that. So as I said, welcome. And we're going to get to our first slide here. So as I said, part 1 of 4, this is Introduction to Voting from Abroad. We're going to take a look at our next slide, which talks about what we're going to talk about today.
Sorry, it's fighting back at me.
You're stronger than the PowerPoint.
I'm not sure how to make it go to the next slide. I can't see the little advance arrow.
Do you need to accept that it's recording? No?
No.
Annie, you might be able to just press the right arrow on your keyboard.
Yeah, I'm trying that and the down arrow, and it's not doing either. So, like I said, it's fighting back. I'm sorry. Let me stop sharing for a second.
No worries. So what you're going to see on the next slide is what we're going to talk about today. We're basically going to do some quick introductions. Annie and I are going to introduce ourselves. It would be great now if you could start putting in the chat, if you haven't already, who you are, where you're currently living in Spain, and where you vote, because then we can get to know each other a little better. As I said, this is part 1 of a 4-part series. Today, we are not going to talk about the mechanics of registering people to vote. That's going to be in session 3, which is on November 18th at 6:30 with Heidi Birch from Vote From Abroad. But what we're doing today is laying the groundwork for that session and explaining why we, as overseas voters, are special. So as I said, let's get started with the introductions. For Annie and I, which is it still fighting you, Annie, or will it let you go to the next slide?
Can you not see it?
No, I'm ready for the next one.
Oh.
Perfect. Oh, no, one back. And another one back. Excellent. So yep.
I am, like I say, fighting with this thing.
Yeah. So I'm Helen Morgan. I'm the chair of Democrats Abroad Sevilla. I'm on both Signal and WhatsApp, and there's my contact information. I want to encourage anybody who has any questions or any doubts or any suggestions to reach out to me at any time. I put my phone on silent so you won't catch me at 2 a.m. But we are here to help. We're delighted people are here. And the most important thing about getting out the vote and our effort as Democrats abroad is that we work together. And very often, if you feel disconnected or you don't know the answer to a question, it can be difficult to go forward. So we're here. Annie shares the same sentiment. She's the vice chair of DA Barcelona. That's her number right there, Signal WhatsApp, and her email as well. I'll also let you know that we are sharing this recording at the end, so you don't need to write down anything that we are telling you right now because it will all be included in the recording. The other thing that I would say is Annie is the closest thing that I know to an oracle about Democrats abroad. She has been working with Democrats abroad for many, many years. She knows people all over the globe. She is highly, highly respected, and you'll understand why when she starts talking to you about the Vote From Abroad program. So if you just have a curiosity or you want to chat more, Annie is your person. Unfortunately, Annie isn't retired yet. She's working on that, but so she has less time than I do, but she's just an amazing person. All right. So let's start with our first acronym. We're going to have lots of acronyms today. Our first acronym is what makes us as voters from Spain different. And what makes us as voters from Spain different is a federal law known as the Uniform and Overseas Absentee Voting Act, which is, we will call it by its acronym UOCAVA. This federal law, so the federal law means it applies to all 58 states and territories that there are. And it applies to everybody who is either a military personnel or living temporarily or permanently abroad. So although our votes for our Arkansas voters or our Tennessee voters or our Washington state voters will be counted by local election officials, there is one law that governs how we get our vote and the form that we fill out to do it. Be careful. There's a term called absentee voting. And a lot of people use the term absentee voting to refer to, for example, you live in Wisconsin and you go on a vacation and you're not going to be around to be able to vote. And so they're going to mail you a vote in your house, to your house in Wisconsin. Absentee voting in the States is different than absentee voting as an overseas voter. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. All right, so let's take a look at what the Uniformed and Overseas Voting Act, UOCAVA, provides for as a federal law, along with its companion, which is called the MOVE Act. So UOCAVA was passed in 1986. It was then followed by the MOVE Act, which it was passed in 2009, which amended UOCAVA, as you can see right here, to establish new voter procedures. And so, as I said before, UOCAVA, this federal law, covers armed service and family members, all government employees and family members, and us, all U.S. citizens living abroad, whether it be temporary or permanently. So as we'll talk about in a little bit, student voters are also covered under UOCAVA because they are temporarily abroad. The most important aspects of UOCAVA is the following. You get to receive your ballot via email or fax. You're going to have to choose whether you want to receive it by email or fax, but you get to receive it by email or fax. The ballot that you receive pursuant to the UOCAVA must arrive, and if you have chosen by email, via email, at least 45 days before the election date, which gives us as overseas voters more time to return our voted ballots. Why is that important for us as Get Out the Vote volunteers? Because that means generally in a November election, our ballots are going to be coming to voters' inboxes at the end of September. And some people are going to have to mail them back. Some people will be able to send them back electronically, either fax them, but using the postal mail from Spain can often be time consuming. So we are going to get on board with getting people to get their ballots back as soon as possible after those ballots come to people's inboxes. That's why calling now is so important, because there will have been people from Virginia, from California, from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania who have just received their ballots. All 56 states and territories accept the same form that acts as a registration document to vote, an absentee ballot for an entire calendar year, and that same form also is used to update any pertinent information. So that's our second big acronym. The form that you are going to use and you're going to encourage people to use to register and request their ballot pursuant to UOCAVA is called the FPCA, or the Federal Postcard Application. The other thing that UOCAVA and the MOVE Act provide for is what's called a federal write-in absentee ballot, or basically a blank state form that allows you to vote in your state if your state does not send you your ballot in a timely fashion. The way that the FVAP works, and I'm sorry, the FVAP works, which is the federal write-in absentee ballot, is it will allow you, if you send it in and then your state sends you your ballot, you'll be allowed to complete both, and they'll only count one, so it's not voting twice. But we'll talk about that in more detail at our third session. And finally, it's important to know that UOCAVA, in conjunction with the MOVE Act, allows some extensions of deadlines for a ballot request and return, as well as some electronic ballot return options if you have filled in the FPCA, that federal postcard application, in that calendar year. So it's super important to know that we are special, and that the reason we are special is because of UOCAVA and the MOVE Act. Okay, so let's look at the form that we are all going to fill out as residents of Spain, either temporarily or permanently, to vote in the United States, no matter where you are submitting your ballot. This is the FPCA, the Federal Postcard Application. It basically contains 5 short pieces of information that you're going to be required to fill in. It's going to ask you who you are, and here you'll see at the top here, you're going to say, I'm a US citizen and I'm living abroad. We'll have a discussion with Heidi later on whether you're abroad permanently or whether you intend to return, because that can affect in what elections you can vote, whether it's just federal or whether you can also vote in state elections. But we're not going to get into those weeds now. So that's section number 1. Section number 2 is, where were you when you last registered to vote? So where did you last vote in the United States? It is important to know that some people who have never lived in the United States are in fact entitled to vote in the United States elections if they are United States citizens, but that does not happen in every state. You're not going to need to know all the rules, and Annie's going to talk to you in a little bit about the amazing resources that we have to access the rules when you need them. But the second section talks about where were you last registered to vote. The third section talks about where you are now, so specifically in Spain and what your address is. The fourth section asks for your contact information. Obviously, if you request to receive your ballot by email, which we encourage everybody to do, they're going to need your email address. And the last and fifth section is, how do you want to receive that information, and about voter registration if you need it. There's a sixth section. This is a federal law, so it covers all of us when applying and registering to vote. But each FPCA, this form doesn't go to a federal agency. It goes to this is our third acronym of the day, local election official, your LEO. So therefore, when you are assisting people to vote, you're assisting people to fill out exactly the same form, but each person is going to send their form back to a different person, their local election official, quite possibly in 52 or the 56 states and territories. Okay, so let's look then at a summary of what we've just learned before Annie's going to take over here. So now we know that all Americans living abroad need to register to vote and request their ballots pursuant to UOCAVA and the MOVE Act. It's used to request and register and request your ballot. I'm going to tell you right now, the advice that we give is you need to do this every year. Okay? So some people may say, and in California, for example, some people say, but my state election official sends me my ballot every year. I don't have to resend an FPCA in. This is what we are telling folks now. Given the speed at which executive orders and laws are being passed that are trying to prohibit us from voting, What do you lose by encouraging everybody to send in an FPCA, even if you're confident that your local election official knows who you are and will send you a ballot? So one of the things that we're going to be asking people is, in January of 2026, when we have midterms and we believe we're still going to be able to vote, where are you going to be helping people to submit their federal postcard application? What are you going to be doing? Is it a local coffee, or are we going to be doing bigger events for International Voter Registration Day, for example, on January 15th of 2026? Because we need to get every overseas voter to submit their FPCA in 2026, just in case something happens and those states who have always re-registered people or resent ballots without receiving a new FPCA decide that they're not going to do it this year. It's important to know, and I'm not going to get into the details of the act, but as a lawyer or previously practicing lawyer, I should tell you, UOCAVA does not says you have to submit it every year. The law says you got to submit it every year. We don't want to get to an election in a swing state and have election judges saying, well, this overseas voter didn't submit their FPCA as required by UOCAVA, so we're not going to count their vote. So let's make every vote counts. Your FPCA is submitted to your local election official, and lots of people can do it electronically, but some are going to have to mail it, and some are going to have to fax it, and then some are actually going to have to print it, sign it, and mail it. Annie's going to talk about where you're going to find out about those rules, but I can't begin to guess the matrix of the number of different rules that there are throughout the United States, because although UOCAVA and the MOVE Act governs how you register and how you request, your state determines how they enforce this federal law. They are in charge of implementing the election laws for your state. So there may be some states, and there have been some relatively recent passage of some state laws that will say, for example, when you register, you've got to show some form of identification. That will be listed when you go to send in your FPCA, but it's really important to know that. And that's really the last point, that each state has its own voting rules and regulations. And to be an effective voter registration assistant, you need to know how to access those rules and regulations. And that's where my friend Annie is going to take over and tell you guys how you are going to figure out, I've got a voter in Pennsylvania. I know that they need to fill out the FPCA, but how on earth do I figure out how they return it?
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions that you need to ask now because you're going to be leaving, or otherwise I'll just keep going, I think.
Yeah, I have a question, Eddie.
Are you staying through the whole thing, Edmund?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll
Yeah,
wait.
no, I just knew there were a couple of people who had to leave early. So if any of those people needed to ask questions.
That's fine. I'll wait.
Yeah, then let's save the questions for the end, except for
Okay.
the cases. All right. So the website that we use for registering ourselves and our fellow Americans to vote from abroad is this website you see here, votefromabroad.org. And as Helen said, well, she made me sound like I know everything, but I don't. I only know where to look for things. And that's what I'm here to empower the rest of you also to know, because the rules change so quickly, and the rules change without lots of times any publicity around the fact that they've changed at state level and at local level, that our best resource is this website, votefromabroad.org. So 90% of the time, when we have election events, voter registration events with members or non-members on military bases or with students, we are going to be using this website or a version of it. Okay, this is just a screenshot of the website. We will be going through the mechanics of registering to vote with Heidi Birch in the third session, but for now, this is just so you can see what it looks like. Vote from Abroad is a website that we call VFA, another one of our fancy acronyms. VFA means votefromabroad.org. This website was set up by Democrats Abroad. Oops, sorry. But it is run for all overseas Americans. And we will register Republicans, we will register independents, it doesn't matter. Everybody can use this website. It is nonpartisan, it is updated frequently. It is a rich source of information for voters and volunteers. And on this one-stop platform, you can do everything. You can register to vote, you can request your ballot if you've already registered in previous years. You can join Democrats Abroad if you want to join Democrats Abroad and you haven't done so already. We have another site which we do not share with voters, but you as a volunteer will get to know very well. This is called Sandbox. The address is sandbox.votefromabroad.org. And it says at the top, this is a development testing site. On this website, you can log in and pretend to request a ballot from lots of different states. So if you know you're going to be helping people from Pennsylvania and you don't know what the Pennsylvania rules are, you can go on and fill out an FPCA, a federal postcard application, pretending to be a person from Pennsylvania. You can fill the whole thing out, submit it and everything, and it won't go anywhere. This is just a testing site. And you will be able to go through the process if you're helping somebody online or in a Zoom event. We have Zoom the Vote events where people can come onto a call like this and we can help them to fill out their FPCA. And you can go through virtually with them to make sure that you understand what question they're getting hung up on or what special trick their state has. Okay. Also, as a voter uses the regular Vote from Abroad site, at one point they will be asked if they are Democrat, independent, or unaffiliated, or Republican. If they choose Republican, they will not be asked to join Democrats Abroad. But if they say they are Democrat, independent, or unaffiliated, they will be offered the opportunity to become a member of Vote from Abroad. So another really important thing about this website is that it helps us as a party to grow our membership. However, when we are doing events with students, it's very, very, very important to be nonpartisan. And so for student events, we have a third version of Vote from Abroad that is called students.votefromabroad.org. And on that website, everything is the same as the regular VFA.org, except for that question about joining Democrats Abroad. That has a dual purpose. The first purpose is, as I said before, that student events must be absolutely nonpartisan. So we don't want to ask them what party they support. We don't want to ask them what candidates they're voting for. The other thing is keeping our member databases up to date and clean. When we start registering, a few years ago, we were registering a lot of students as members of Democrats Abroad, and then they left, they went back to the States. There was no way to follow up with them. So now the student version of the website does not ask if they want to join our party. It just helps us later on when we have to do the membership cleanup. This is the student website, and you can tell that you're there because it says new to voting. Click here. All right, so this is what the student website looks like. Note that these pages do get updated frequently. So even though this is what it looks like today, next year it could look slightly different. But this is what you're going to see if you look on the website now. Okay. So, sorry, I skipped a page. These are the links that I've been telling you about. Votefromabroad.org is for all overseas voters who are not students. This is, as I said before, this is going to be the 90% of voter registration events that you do. You'll be using votefromabroad.org for anyone who's not a student and you will use students.votefromabroad.org for study abroad programs or maybe high schools. And the sandbox.votefromabroad.org is our toolbox. This website, we'll go through it on a separate session, or when you get these slides, click through and look at the websites and become familiar with the content. You'll see that there's just a vast amount of information on the sandbox. There's information about this year's current elections and the specific issues and questions that voters will have. It has information on how to request and return your ballot in each site on each state. And just lots of things that you would never even think to ask about. How to order, how to hold an event. There's a voter registration in a box link, and you open it up and it has a spreadsheet with all the information that you need to host a successful event. So like I said at the beginning, the most important thing is not to know all the rules for all the states. It's just to know where to go to look for the rules in their most updated format, which is on these websites.
Annie, we got a comment from Alexia from Granada that she's not seeing the shared screen, but I don't know. My suspicion is that is more on her end than our end. And all I would say, Alexia, is you will get the slides with the recording.
Is anybody else having problems seeing the screen?
So Doris says she can see it. I know I can see it. Ah, Maggie, our tech guru from Madrid, also chair of DA Madrid, says there are 2 tabs on the top of the screen. You're seeing us, you'll need to switch over to the presentation. Lisa's got it too. Alexia, hopefully that helps.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse the interruption, Annie.
Nope, that's fine. All right, what we're seeing now is the FVAP website. That's another one of our acronyms, the Federal Voting Assistance Program. FVAP.gov is a website that is run by the US government. It was started for overseas service members, but it also can be used by any overseas citizen. It is not a get out the vote program. It simply offers information and some resources. So for instance, where our Vote from Abroad website will submit the FPCA for you electronically when possible, this feature does not exist on the FVAP website. Okay, it's very rudimentary. It doesn't help you as much to fill out the fields either as our website does. However, it is the website that embassies and consulates and other US agencies will refer overseas voters to. It's not user-friendly and it is becoming more confusing. So why do we use it? Well, there are 2 main situations. The first is if we're registering voters on military bases, because this is the program that the military wants us to use, and it is what we have to use. So here in Spain, we do a lot of voter registration in regular election years at the military bases. So you want to get familiar with this website because you will be using it if you help with those initiatives. It's a whole new packet of information that we have to take with us when we go on those voter registration drives to the bases. Another reason, though, why we use this website is to fill out and submit the FVAP, not to submit, but to fill it out. The FVAP, which Helen talked about earlier, is the federal write-in absentee ballot. If your regular ballot does not arrive by email or postal mail in time to fill out and return, you can go to this website and you can find a blank ballot. You need to know who the candidates are and what the office is that they're running for, and you fill it in by hand, and then you can send that in to your LEO, to your local election officer. Again, this is only available if you have registered as an overseas voter using the federal postcard application. And the FVAP is only counted if your regular ballot does not return in time. Okay, And there are some other overseas voter registration websites that we've seen. A couple of them send emails to overseas voters. We don't know how they get their addresses, but they do. But none of these websites are as robust and as reliable and as up to date as our votefromabroad.org. So we really encourage you to always use Vote From Abroad, except in the cases where you have to use the FVAP. Some of the Cadillac features of Vote From Abroad are the ease of use. It really is, it basically holds your hand as you go through. It fills some fields for you. It's much easier to fill out than a paper form. You don't have to look up information online. We used to have, back when I started doing voter registration events and before Vote From Abroad was so well indexed internally, we used to have a book that we took to events that looked like a New York City phone book. It was really fat. And you had to look up the address, the street address of every single Leo and fill in all that information by manually. We don't have to do that now. All the information is in the website. It's indexed. You just have to basically select the one that corresponds with your voting address. It's most update information out there. VFA has a great team of volunteers who update the information just as soon as it is received and verified. For many states, you can do either a fingertip signature or a photo signature and update it on. You sign a piece of paper generally with your black pen on a white piece of paper and take a picture of it with your phone and upload it into the field for the signature. And then it can be sent right in by email. So there's no need in many cases to even have a piece of paper. If you do have to sign the form with a pen, the program will email you the completed form so that you can then print it, sign it, take a picture, and email it into your Leo. And then we also have great voter assistance options through votefromabroad.org. So as you're going through the website, you'll see on the lower right-hand side that there's a chat bubble. And you can type your question in the chat if you can't figure it out for yourself. And an online help, real live person will get back to you very quickly with an answer to your question. We also have the Zoom voter assistance sessions that I spoke of earlier. And we have in-person events with people who can help you to request your ballot. And we hope that all of you will participate as helpers. Okay, so that's it for what we wanted to cover today. We have 3 more sessions coming up. The next one on October 28th will be about the nuts and bolts of hosting an event. So we really want all of the chapters to have a plan, and also people who are not in chapters, if there are Americans living in your city and you want to have people over to your house or meet people out at a coffee shop or whatever, just to know what you need to have to publicize and hold an event and make sure that you have all the materials that you need and know where to go to answer the questions that might come up. On November 18th, we will have Heidi Birch herself, the mastermind behind VFA, the person who knows how all this stuff works. She's going to give us a hands-on training, at the end of which we will all be able to take a little quiz and be certified VFA training experts. And on December 10th, we're going to wrap it all up, putting it all together, deal with any final questions, logistics, and hopefully get a lot of great feedback from the rest of you. So, any questions? I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see your faces.
And Edmund had a question.
Yeah, hi, great, Annie, thank you. Hello, Helen, you're doing a wonderful job, you guys. Since I'm new to this is a little overwhelming, but when we take a photo of the application and we email it, they automatically find the Leo or no?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was looking at the questions in the chat and I wasn't fully.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Edmund, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm going to answer if Annie doesn't mind.
Yeah.
Go
And-
ahead,
Go ahead.
please.
And then Annie's going to look
Yeah.
at the questions. So what happens, Heidi's going to be talking, and thank you for saying that this is overwhelming, because I think it is. If you
Yeah.
don't have
Oh,
any
yeah.
prior experience, the great news is the websites that Annie talked about are they really take you by the hand and they walk you through it, how to help people. And our session on November 18th is going to be exactly, if you're sitting at a booth and somebody comes up and says, I
Yes.
last lived in Richmond, Virginia. How do I register to vote and how do I vote from abroad? We're going to take you through those technical steps. But to answer your question directly, that will be confirmed for you by Heidi, when the Vote from Abroad application helps you fill in your federal postcard application,
Yes.
depending on your address, they will find your
Oh,
local
election office,
election
yeah.
official for you, and then they send it. If you are allowed to send it electronically, it will send it for you. So it's amazing. And that's why
Yeah.
Annie, it used to be that she'd take a phone book so she could find the folks in Richmond, Virginia, but now they
Right.
find them for you.
Yeah.
And what is also amazing, I will say, is often the federal website will come to the Vote from Abroad website, because we have more updated information about local election officials than the feds often do. Because there's sometimes, and hopefully I'm not going to pick a name, but say there's Bob's in Birmingham, Alabama, and Bob is the local election official, and Bob really wants you to do something that the federal law does not require you to do. But Bob is being really difficult. We have voter specialists that will go in and explain to Bob, one, about UOCAVA and the MOVE Act, two, that Bob has to comply, and we do it very nicely, but we have legal help if need be, has to comply. But then they'll also warn people, and if you're sending it to this part of Birmingham, Alabama, you may just need to be aware of Bob, because Bob is going to say that you need to send in photo ID and you don't really. But that's what's so amazing about this site. It is.
Yeah.
It's
No,
truly
I downloaded mine through the site and it's wonderful.
great.
And
Fantastic.
I was waiting for a chat with the person there, but this
Great.
it really fits into what I was concerned about. And I need to know when I register people to vote that I need to know what I'm talking about. Fortunately, I have people around me that are experienced and can help me out with that, but I need to know that also.
Well,
Thank
you
you,
need
Helen.
to know where to go to look for the answers.
Exactly. You don't
So
have the
that's,
answers, but like you said perfectly, Annie, you don't have all the answers, but here we go to here's where you can find them.
it's always better to tell a voter if you don't know the answer, just get their contact information and do some research and get back to them with the answer.
Yeah, that's what I did with some new members we had in Alicante the other day. So fine. Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions, comments?
Helen, I have a question. So you ladies recorded this. Are you gonna send it to us?
Yes.
So that we have recorded? Okay, because I would like to try to get more of my local friends involved. And just to get an idea, I don't really understand. So are we gonna be helping register people from Mallorca, from like where we're based, or is it all over Spain? Are we gonna get like a database of expats in Spain to like get in touch with, or just to have an idea?
Yes. So you are going to drive this depending on your interest. So for example, Danielle, in Sevilla, we have a chapter here, right? And so one of our chapter members, Carol Ann, I think is still here, but I'm going to call her out. Yeah, there she is. There's her hand. Carol Ann, we have a student voter registration team. She's really active in that. And so as a group in Sevilla, I will say, hey, Carol Ann, can you go to CEA next Tuesday and register these students to vote? So that's one kind of activity. And that's why Carol Ann's here. But you're not in a chaptered area. So there's a couple of options for you, Danielle. One is when you become a voter assistant, you can join the global team. And there are a couple of ways that you can help. You can be on you can be on where people send in questions and you can answer questions for people all over the world. I did that last year and I loved it. And this is why. One, you get to choose the questions. So if you it's like a really easy exam. If you don't like the question that somebody is sending in from Pennsylvania, you don't have to answer it. You can go to the next one from California, which is really easy, and just answer it. Or you can be on Zoom chats and help people from all over the world. Somebody says, I'm registering for the first time from Germany. I used to live in New York, but I would prefer to vote in Michigan because it's a swing state and I have a cousin there. Can I register? And you'll be able to say, well, no, you can't do that because you got to vote where you last voted. So you can do that. Or Danielle, the other option for you is, you mentioned that you have friends in America who are Americans. You guys could get together, go somewhere like a coffee shop or maybe a market or somewhere where you think there may be a number of Americans, and set up a vote from abroad booth, and we will help you do that. Mark Morris is our secretary here. We have a database, it's called Nation Builder, of all registered Democrats in all members of Democrats abroad within Spain. So we can tell you, hey, Danielle, there's 30 people in Mallorca. And if you would like us to send an email to all those 30 people and invite them to a Get Out the Vote event, we will do that. And we will send you materials and we'll hold your hand and walk you through it. So if you drive it, we're here to help. And I really mean that we are everywhere that we can be. And my guess is in Mallorca, there are other people like you who are feeling increased anxiety and really want to do something, but don't know where to start. And we are here to help you do that. So that's in part why we're doing this program.
I was going to ask, can I go to the consulate and post something, like, because obviously they can't give me the data, the information of the people of America that are Americans, but I thought maybe I was thinking of going to talk to them at the consulate and letting them know that I'm going to be participating, helping get the vote out from Mallorca. So I was wondering if you had any experience talking to your American.
So I'm just sure Carol Ann's got her. Carol Ann also does our badges here, Vote from Abroad. She does an amazing job, and we can send you. I bet you she'd make some for you too. So this is the interesting thing about the consulate, Danielle. They have to be nonpartisan, and they have to use the website, the federal government website, to register people to vote. So we have a great relationship with our consulate here in Sevilla, but they cannot be associated with Vote from Abroad or Democrats Abroad, and I think especially now. The one thing that you're going to learn about, though, with the consulate is they often have a diplomatic pouch, which allows people who have to mail back their ballots the ability to do that for free in a specific envelope. And you drop it off at the consulate, and then they will send it to Madrid. In Madrid, they stamp it with a U.S. postmark, and then it is shipped off to the United States to be sent into the U.S. mail. But it's in Madrid. So if, for example, I think it's Virginia, if you're voting using the FPCA, it has to have a stamp from outside the United States. You can't send it with a friend to have it voted there, but that's one of those laws that you'll find a lot from. But they have that. But the consulate is, although it would be great to partner with them, they're the U.S. government and they can't partner with us.
I can add something about the consulate too.
Yeah, please.
Like, for instance, last year they had the FVAP team members from Washington, D.C. came to Barcelona and held a session at the consulate for voter registration volunteers. And there were people from study abroad programs. They invited 4 or 5 of us from Democrats Abroad, other American groups in the city, and they had a hands-on training session on using the FVAP website. It was fabulous. But with the new government that has come in, they went through the Doge process basically. So there's nobody really. Their team has been really reduced in size. So there's not anybody to do that training anymore on the FVAP website from the U.S. government.
Because I actually came to Mallorca 15 years ago as an English auxiliar. So every year a new group of about 80 students come to Mallorca. And so I was just thinking about Facebook pages and stuff.
Yes.
So, right. Those would be a good big group of young,
yes,
would be interested.
our experience with auxiliaries here in Andalusia is those Facebook pages are like steel vaults to get into. But if you could get into one, you could
Mhm.
absolutely put vote from abroad
Mhm.
information on that because that's nonpartisan. And the
Mhm.
other suggestion would be if you can find somebody or a couple of people who might be interested, say,
Mhm.
we're going to do a voter registration session. If you can just share the information, we'll be at this cafe or this group or wherever we'll be. And then folks can come. We have a couple of auxiliaries in Sevilla, and they're great.
Yeah, my kid's auxiliary is from Philadelphia, so which is
Oh,
very nice.
perfect.
So
Perfect. So
yeah,
you've got an in
yeah, I
and
got an in.
Yeah.
Great, thanks,
um,
ladies.
oh, yes, of course. And just be in touch, Danielle, whenever you want, just reach out. We have a question from Alexia. Hi, Alexia. Rock the Vote program being used. So the
We used it in Barcelona.
so the interesting thing about Rock the Vote is with Rock the Vote, we use Vote from Abroad for students, but the Rock the Vote is basically sort of the landing page. I don't know. It's if we do a
Not
poster,
even.
in some places we do Rock the Vote and then the QR code goes to Vote from Abroad. It's
Yeah.
going to be up to you, Alexia. In Sevilla, we just use Vote from Abroad because it's what we've always used. But I know Jim, who Annie is Oracle 1 and Jim is Oracle 2, Jim Mercero, and he really likes Rock the Vote. He's always used it. And he says that he's never had anybody turn him down. So that's what he's using at the moment. But in our next session too, Alexia, we've got the links to the wiki. And those will show you some amazing student vote from abroad resources, some really cool posters and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used them some last year. I was doing a lot of that in Granada, but I was being kind of being trained by Jim at that point. And now
Right.
I'm going to kind of do something this year
Great.
on my own. But I would
I think that consistency is important. So like here in Barcelona, we've been using Rock the Vote as our email address and everything to contact the programs. And that's just who they know us as, and that's who
Yeah.
we have the relationship set up with. And so if we came back and said, now we're calling ourselves something else,
Yeah.
they might not be as receptive
point.
to
Yeah.
us coming. So if you already have a relationship, I say the most important thing is, it's the calling card that we present when we go in. We do collaborate with Rock the Vote, especially through Jim Mercero. And then the website that we use to help the students is students.votefromabroad.org. And usually the programs don't have problems with that.
They've all been very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't done anything.
That's okay.
It's on my list.
Yes. We've all got lists. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none. Annie, should we finish early? That's good for Democrats.
We could. I'm just going to share the link in the chat box to our phone banking program, which is going on right now, which is also a way that we get people involved in voting. So if you have any free time and can help the people who have elections this fall to remember to request and receive and return their ballots, phone banking is another really good way to make a difference, even if you don't have an election in your state.
And we are okay.
Well,
I think I've beat. I am competitive, and I think I have. Have I done 30? I feel like I have. 30 completed? Yeah. Because you can make 30 calls, but if 20 people aren't there, you get through a lot.
True.
I really want to thank everybody for coming, new and old alike. This is how we're going to get through this together. We all want to do something, and this is something very positive you can do. It's going to look different for each and every one of us, but whatever you do, you are doing something. And so from my heart to you, thank you. And we will see you on the next date, which is October We've got that
28th.
28th at 7:30.
Yep.
And we'll talk about toolbox.
Thank you both.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
I'm glad it was helpful. And take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next day. I will be 1 day back from Japan. And so I'm going to sleep in the background and Annie's going to run it. And we have a wonderful volunteer from Barcelona who's also coming to help and talk about student events. So take care, everybody.
Thank